Get an exceptional offer on this Q5 at your local Audi dealer.
Good morning, America. Breaking news on the border. A judge now orders officials to reunite those separated families and the thousands of children still detained within 30 days. Also breaking overnight, the 28-year-old on the verge of making history, taking down one of the most powerful members of Congress.
New wildfire danger. The massive Pawnee fire growing at this hour, now scorching more than 13,000 acres, 600 homes in its path. Thousands of firefighters battling it from the ground and air. And the new warnings from California to the Midwest.
Terrifying moments on the tarmac overnight, a false alarm causing this panic at JFK. FBI agents and officers flooding the plane over hijacking fears. Vacation nightmare. This woman parasailing when the rope breaks, sending her soaring out of control for 45 minutes. The 29-year-old airlifted back to the U.S.
And this just in, Serena gets a seed. The tennis superstar getting a huge victory at Wimbledon before it even begins, winning a battle for new moms.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
And good morning, America. Hope you're well this Wednesday morning. So she's won Wimbledon, 7 times, Serena Williams, but 25th seed, a victory this morning.
Hey, she'll take that. Remember, she was unseeded at the French Open when she came back from maternity leave. A lot of people were upset about that, but this morning, scored a little bit of a victory there.
No stopping her now. All right, but first we begin with that breaking news at the border overnight. A federal judge ordering the government to reunite separated families within 30 days, and children under 5 must now be reunited with their parents in just 14 days. More than 2,000 of those separated children are still in federal custody. ABC's chief national affairs correspondent Tom Yamas is traveling with the Customs and Border Protection in Tucson, Arizona, and has the latest on all of this. Good morning, Tom.
Cecilia, good morning to you. This is a major headline. As you mentioned, there are still more than 2,000 children who were separated from their parents, and now a U.S. district judge in California setting a hard deadline for those families to be reunited. Here's what the order says specifically, and you laid some of these out there in the intro. First, families need to be reunited within 30 days. Children younger than 5 must be reunited within 14 days of this order, and the order also stops any future separations. The judge putting it very bluntly in his decision. Listen to this. The unfortunate reality is that under the president's system, migrant children are not accounted for with the same efficiency and accuracy as property. Certainly that cannot satisfy the requirement of due process. Now, one of the named plaintiffs in this case, an undocumented immigrant from Brazil named Jocelyn. Now, ABC News was the first network to profile her after she had been separated from her son for more than 8 months. Shortly after our story aired, Jocelyn was reunited with her son, but there are still more than 2,000 children who have not been reunited. Some parents have already been deported. Others are hundreds of miles away, spread out all over the country. And the Department of Justice, Cecilia, has just gotten back to us. Here's the statement they just sent to us moments ago. It's even more imperative that Congress finally act to give federal law enforcement the ability to simultaneously enforce the law and keep families together, Cecilia.
So much confusion over this one, Tom. The White House now says the First Lady has been so moved by all of these images of those kids, she's now planning to make a second trip back to the border.
Yeah, that's right. You'll remember she made that surprise trip just last week. Many people didn't know this was going to happen. She appeared there near the border in McAllen, Texas, to visit one of the detention facilities holding children that had been separated. But her trip was cut short, and of course, it sort of was overshadowed as well because of that green Zara jacket she wore on the plane that had the words, "Really don't care, do you?" Her office maintaining there was no hidden meaning behind the jacket, but then the president later tweeting that the jacket was meant in response to, quote, the fake news media. Cecilia?
Yeah, and totally contradicting his own wife's office. Okay, Tom, thank you. George?
We have more breaking news right now. A stunning night in politics. Democrats shocked after one of their leaders in Congress beat by a socialist poised to become the youngest woman ever elected to Congress. As President Trump scores more wins on the GOP side, our chief White House correspondent John Carl tracking all the results. Good morning, John.
Good morning, George. This was a shocking defeat to the Democratic establishment and a major victory to the progressive Bernie Sanders wing of the Democratic Party.
Overnight, the political upset of the year.
She's looking at herself on television right now. How are you feeling? Can you put it into words?
Nope. I cannot put this into words.
28-year-old Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez vanquished one of the most powerful Democrats in Congress, Joe Crowley.
This is for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
a man who had been believed by some to be the next Speaker of the House.
I respect the outcome of this election.
Ocasio-Cortez calls herself a democratic socialist. She proposed eliminating ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. A former Bernie Sanders organizer, if she wins in November, and she'll be the overwhelming favorite, she'll become the youngest woman ever elected to Congress. On Twitter, President Trump saw Crowley's loss as his win. He's out. That is a big one that nobody saw happening. Perhaps he should have been nicer and more respectful to his president. And in South Carolina,
you gotta get out there and vote.
A candidate endorsed by the president won. Governor Henry McMaster coming out on top in the Republican primary.
Thank you.
And overnight, the president extended his well wishes to a former foe who won in Utah, tweeting a congratulations to former Governor Mitt Romney on his Senate primary win. Big and conclusive win by Mitt Romney. Congratulations. I look forward to working together. There is so much good to do. A great and loving family will be coming to D.C. With primary season almost over, the president is fully in campaign mode. He heads out on the campaign trail today for the second time this week. He'll be going to North Dakota and Wisconsin. He knows, George, that his agenda is very much at stake in these midterms.
And he is on the ballot in many ways. Okay, John, thanks very much. Let's bring in our chief political analyst, Matthew Dowd, for more on this. And Matt, in recent years, we've seen Republican incumbents beat by the wings of their party. Haven't had upsets like this on the Democratic side. This is a big development here for the Democrats.
George, I think this is a huge symptomatic leading indicator of what's going on in the party and in the country. This is like what happened with Eric Cantor, the majority leader who lost in his own primary in 2014, which really signaled what was going to come in 2016. This is a district that was over 80% non-white. And obviously, Joe Crowley did not fit this district. It did not fit the Democratic Party anymore, and he lost. And this is going to tell us a lot about what's going to come ahead post-2018. But no doubt about it, this is an indicator light of what's coming for the establishment.
So if you're an incumbent in either party right now, you've got to be worried.
I think if you're an incumbent, you have to be worried. You have to respond to this. The ones that have responded to what's changing in America have done reasonably well. They've won their parties. And so if you respond to it, but the problem right now is Donald Trump was wrong about what happened in this district. It wasn't because Joe Crowley was anti-Trump. It was because Joe Crowley wasn't anti-Trump enough in this district, and that's why he was beat in this primary. But it is a huge indication of the changing nature of both political parties.
Big midterms coming up. Matthew Dowd, thanks very much, Robin.
And George, we're going to move on now to those new wildfires warnings out west. A raging Pawnee fire spreading across Northern California, scorching more than 13,000 acres, threatening hundreds of homes. Nearly 3,000 firefighters are battling to contain it. Will Carr is in Clear Lake Oaks, California for us. Good morning, Will.
Good morning, Rob. And homeowners feeling helpless this morning. There's been a hellish orange glow on the skyline and destruction here on the ground. You can see this garage crushed, and check out the skeleton of this four-wheeler. Nearly 24 homes have been destroyed and hundreds more are still being threatened. Now, we've been on the front lines with the fire crews every single day as we've been watching this fire grow bigger and bigger. Overnight, the massive fire in Lake County, California, ripping through more fuels, fanned by erratic winds and bone-dry brush, potentially taking aim at 600 homes in its path. This fire has exploded on the hillside behind me. You can hear those flames, and it is so hot it's biting at my skin. This plume of smoke goes up for miles. Firefighters exhausted, but waging an around-the-clock war on the growing inferno that has already destroyed 22 homes and businesses, charred 13,000 acres, and forced mass evacuation, some homeowners leaving sprinklers spraying on their rooftops.
The firefighters? Oh my God. I mean, the minute they think you're in danger, they are there.
Marianne Silva chose to stay behind to watch her llamas, but posted a sign in her front yard thanking the men and women on the front lines.
I'm gonna cry when I say this. So thankful for them putting their lives on the line to keep us safe.
Thousands of firefighters now battling more than 30 wildfires in the western United States. The conditions, brutal. Scalding temperatures, low humidity, and whipping winds sparking fire after fire.
The time to prepare was yesterday. We need people to really take the time to have a plan.
With that in mind, there are some things homeowners can do to protect their properties. That includes creating defensible space. That means getting rid of your shrubs and trees that are near your house. All it takes is for one ember to drop down, and then everything can go up in flames, especially important since fire season these days is practically year-round. Robin.
Does seem that way. Will, thank you. Now, while those fires rage out west, tornadoes are hitting the heartland. Overnight, 11 reported twisters touching down. Ginger is tracking it all for us. Good morning, Ginger.
Robin, those 11 reported tornadoes came from North Dakota to Missouri, but this video out of central and eastern Illinois, Gifford, Illinois, shows you that almost film-like Wizard of Oz-ish looking tornado blowing up a structure. Now, this was just one of the tornadoes reported, of course. In Eureka, Kansas, 6 people were injured. You had the high school damaged, several other structures damaged there. And then in Wisconsin, this is Platteville, you can see the tornado and the Argyle, Wisconsin video that shows you exactly what's happening after that tornado moves through. Now, today we do have a threat for tornadoes, damaging wind and hail, and Nashville is in the center of it. I'll have that forecast in just a bit. Cecilia?
Okay, Ginger, thank you. I want to turn now to some wild scenes on 2 different tarmacs overnight. A man scaling a fence in Atlanta, jumping onto the wing of the plane. And right here in New York at JFK, the FBI boarded this plane because of a hijacking scare. ABC's Gio Benitez is at JFK with more. And Gio, gosh, those passengers were, I'm sure, terrified.
Oh, absolutely, Cecilia. Good morning. Some of those passengers were tweeting from the plane, calling it their worst nightmare. And in just a moment, you're going to see them with their hands in the air, all because of a radio issue. Overnight, the FBI swarming the tarmac at JFK after a hijacking scare.
I counted 20 emergency vehicles, red lights, blue lights. It was really scary.
After a radio issue on JetBlue Flight 1623 caused pilots to lose contact with the tower for 10 minutes, the radio silence triggering the hijacking false alarm. Police and FBI agents surrounding the plane, passengers seen with hands in the air. JetBlue releasing a statement saying that while communication was reestablished via alternative channels, authorities responded in an abundance of caution.
What is he doing?
And in Atlanta overnight, authorities racing onto the tarmac after this.
There's somebody running around the airport, standby.
A half-naked man scaling the fence surrounding Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, causing chaos for alarmed passengers on board a Delta flight that had just landed from Miami.
Do you have a person on foot? In fact, he's on the runway.
The man, now identified as 19-year-old Jarin Jones, jumping onto the wing of the plane and then pounding on the windows. Here you can see Jones sitting underneath the wing of the plane. Authorities quickly moving in and surrounding him, placing him under arrest.
I'm concerned about his safety, wanting to just make sure that this individual gets help because clearly he wasn't in what I guess we would consider your right mind.
And we're told that 19-year-old may suffer from mental illness, but still, he's facing a slew of charges. As for that incident here at JFK, we're now told that the FAA is investigating, George.
I'll bet they are. Okay, Gio, thanks very much. We're going to move on now to a shocking discovery at the home of an NFL star. A body was found at Janoris Jenkins' house while the New York Giants cornerback was out of town. Authorities now investigating, and ABC's Paula Ferris here with the latest. Good morning, Paula.
Good morning to you, George. This all happened when Jenkins was thousands of miles away. A friend of his found dead in Jenkins' New Jersey home, and police are investigating this as a homicide.
And it's picked off. Down the sideline goes Janoris Jenkins.
Janoris Jenkins is known for his solid defense and speed as a cornerback on the New York Giants.
And there comes Jackrabbit.
But this morning, police are investigating just how and why a dead body was discovered inside the NFL star's property Tuesday morning, converting Jenkins' New Jersey home into a crime scene.
Heard from some neighbors over here that they found a dead body in the basement.
The interactions we've had with him, just nice, decent. He's a perfect neighbor.
Overnight, authorities identified the deceased as Jenkins' family friend, Roosevelt Renee, who had been living in the house at the time. Reports saying the 25-year-old was a music producer.
Sources have told ESPN they are investigating this as a homicide.
Jenkins reportedly was not home at the time Renee's body was discovered, and ESPN reports the football pro has been at his Florida home the last 2 weeks.
Janoris wanted to get back to New Jersey, but the New York Giants and the attorneys have told him to stay in Florida at this point as police continue to investigate.
Now, we reached out to Janoris Jenkins' camp. No comment. As for his friend, the cause of Renee's death is still unknown. An autopsy will be performed later today to determine just exactly how he died in his home.
Strange story. Okay, Paula, thanks very much.
Okay, George, now to that big news for Serena Williams. Earlier this morning, Wimbledon announcing the tennis star will get a 25th seed after she was not seeded at the French Open when, you know, she came back from maternity leave. A lot of people arguing that that was unfair. TJ Holmes is here with Serena's story. Hey there, TJ.
Good morning to you, Robin. Tournaments like Wimbledon will seed players in their tournament based on their world rankings. Now, Serena dropped to 183 in the world because she hasn't played a lot after coming back from maternity leave. Well, Wimbledon is now making an exception, and they're not going to, as some say, punish her for having a baby. A major decision from Wimbledon overnight, deciding Serena Williams will be seeded 25th in the upcoming Wimbledon tournament.
It's a successful return here in an hour and 3/4.
The announcement follows criticism of the way players' rankings are affected by taking time off to have a baby. In her 13 months off the court, her ranking slid from #1 in the world when she won the 2017 Australian Open during her first trimester to 454th at the French Open in May. The 23-time Grand Slam champion has since clawed her way back to 183rd in the world. Williams told ABC News Tuesday before the decision was announced she hopes the rules are changed.
I think and I hope and it should be under review to change these rules. Maybe not in time for me, but for the next person.
Williams, who shared the birth of her daughter Alexis on her HBO docuseries Being Serena, has received support from fellow tennis pros Caroline Wozniacki, John McEnroe, and James Blake, who have called for tournaments not to punish her for becoming a mom.
That tells you the importance that this story takes in the tennis community. No surprise. Serena Williams is the greatest of all time, and they get it.
Now, the French Open did not make an exception, and remember, she was not seeded. The U.S. Open has already said that they will absolutely take this into account, but Wimbledon is making an exception for her.
Explain to people why seeding is so important.
Well, it's a big deal because it determines who you're going to play. You get a higher seed, you're not going to have to face as tough of an opponent.
Early on.
Now, it's not fair to Serena, some will argue, but it's also not fair to top-seeded players that an unseeded Serena, you have to see her in the first, second, third round. That's not fair to them either. But there are some players who do not think she should get, they said, hey, I worked, I've been out there, I've been playing, and there is a player who is not seeded, got bumped because Serena did get that seed. So of course she's going to be upset, but there are a lot of players who also feel she shouldn't get the seed.
Tough one. Yeah, not everyone's going to be happy.
Of course.
Let's see how she does now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, TJ, thanks very much. Let's go back to Ginger.
Yeah, and we've got to talk about those folks fighting the wildfires, living through them. The red flag warnings now multiplying across the West, not just because that high pressure system is sliding east, plenty of heat, but the winds are gusting to up to 40. That's all going to slide east even farther, and there are heat advisories in place from St. Louis to parts of Alabama. Your local weather in 30 seconds. First, though, the Sunny Cities, sponsored by Quicksilver Card.
Some cashback cards send you on a journey to get your bonus cashback. First, they make you sign up for bonus cashback, and it's only on a few categories. And when those categories change, you gotta sign up again. When does it end? With the Capital One Quicksilver Card, you earn unlimited 1.5% cashback on every purchase every week. It's like a cashback oasis. What's in your wallet?
We may stay clear from the high heat today, but not the humidity. And we're also tracking the threat for not only some rain, but some thunderstorms that could be severe after 7 p.m. today and up until 11 p.m., maybe even midnight. Our biggest threat will be that of seeing some damaging winds. Meanwhile, the other big story is the heat wave. Temperatures in the 90s Friday through probably Tuesday with high humidity Sunday in heat index values. This weekend, well over 100 degrees.
Here on GMA, how chewing gum, a water bottle, and a genealogy site may have helped solve the 25-year-old cold case of a young teacher who was murdered.
And a vacation nightmare for this woman who was parasailing when her tether broke. It sent her soaring out of control. She passed out in the air before a crash landing. You'll see it here on GMA.
At this point in my life, I know what I like.